Hello, my name is JoJo and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. When applying to PhD programs, most people have a pretty general or pretty specific idea of what schools they want to attend, what kind of programs they're looking for, what those programs have to offer. They usually have a pretty good sense of all of that before application season rolls around. Ideally, you'd want to start the process of searching for and choosing a PhD program to apply to at least a semester or two prior to the semester you'd plan to apply. But if you aren't one of those people, because I know I sure wasn't, at least not my first go round, it's okay. Going into my first round of PhD applications 2 years ago, I had no idea what I should be looking for in a program, what aspects of the program I should be evaluating. I really had no idea where to even begin with that process, and it was extremely overwhelming. It caused me so much anxiety, and I really just want to try to help other people avoid that feeling of just being lost and not knowing where to start. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you the top things you should be considering when looking for and choosing programs to apply to. First things first, I've included a few links in the description below that should help you get started on searching for programs. If you aren't really sure what schools you want to go to, what kinds of programs you want to go to, the links that I've included below should help you get on the right track and just finding programs to apply to. From that point on, you should start considering the few things that I'm going to be mentioning in this video to help you narrow down your search and start choosing programs to apply to. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to consider is the type of program that school offers and whether or not their program is APA accredited. Basically, in the simplest way I can think to explain it, if the program isn't APA accredited, odds are you're not going to be able to take the national licensing exam once you're done, which means that you won't be able to legally practice in whatever state it is you end up in. On top of that, different schools offer different types of programs and different types of training. So if you're applying to PhD programs, then your curriculum will be a pretty good balance of both research and clinical training, and you'll have to complete a research dissertation before you can finish the program. If you're applying to PsyD programs, it'll be much more clinically focused and you won't have to complete any heavy research work. You'll also want to read up on the program's website to determine what their focus is when it comes to training and whether or not that's something that you want to focus on as well. When it comes to clinical training, some programs focus more on psychodynamic theory, others focus more on CBT, etc., etc. So you'll want to read through their website to determine what it is their focus is in that program. The next thing you'll want to focus on is student data. Data? Data. The next thing you'll want to focus on is student data. Every program's website should have a section labeled student admissions, outcomes, and other data. In this section, you'll hopefully be able to find somewhere between 5 to 10 years worth, I know some schools go back as far as 15 years worth of student data, and it's usually in chart form. So the first few things you'll see in this chart are typically how many students applied to the program each year, how many students were offered admission each year, and then how many of those students actually accepted their offers. This will give you a good idea of average cohort size. What's really important to look at here is the difference between the number of applications and how many students ended up in the program. If a program has an extreme volume of applications every year, but typically accepts a smaller cohort, so anywhere between 5 to 9 students, you can imagine that that program is going to be a little bit more competitive and it's going to be a little bit harder to get into. Larger cohorts, so anywhere from 10 to 15, maybe even 17 students, might not be as competitive, but in general will still be pretty competitive as most PhD programs are. Another thing you'll want to consider when looking at the cohort size is faculty to student ratio. And these ratios won't always, but could affect the quality of mentoring and training that you receive in the program. Some other data points you might see in this chart are how many students were successfully placed into internships each year, how many students completed the program, and the average number of years it took to complete the program. These are really important to consider because it will give you some insight into how long it might take you to complete the program, especially because all PhD students are required to complete a predoctoral internship for 1 year prior to completing their program. One final thing you might see in this chart is how well the students did on average on the national licensing exam. This isn't always included. I've seen this very rarely in my searches, but a few programs do include it, and it's kind of important to know so that you're aware of how likely you are to pass the licensing exam when you're done. The next thing you'll want to consider is the program's faculty. So in searching for programs, you're going to want to look for faculty members that you'd be interested in working with. And one of the first things you're going to have to look at is what kinds of research they're currently doing in their labs. And you'll want to make sure that the work you want to do and the work they are currently doing align. The most important thing to remember here is that you are evaluating fit. You want to make sure that the faculty members in that program that you are interested in working with align with your own values and goals and can actually help you reach those goals that you're setting for yourself, both in your research and your career. The next thing you'll want to consider, obviously, unfortunately, is cost. Each program's tuition will vary depending on quite a few factors, one being whether it's a private or public institution. Private institutions tend to be much more expensive because they aren't state funded. Another factor is financial aid availability. This includes what the school might be able to fund you directly in addition to, federal student loans, grants, scholarships, etc. And finally, the last thing you'll want to consider in all of this is yourself, okay? Focus on you and only you, if you can. If not, then I understand. But if you can, focus on you. Focus on yourself. At the end of the day, no one else is going to be going through this program with you. You know yourself best. You know what's best for you. You know what you need, and you know what you don't need. Try not to focus on what programs someone else might want you to go to or might think is best for you. Try not to focus on national rankings of institutions or programs or prestige or notoriety or any of that, because it's not going to help you in the long run. Focusing on you also means asking yourself questions that might not be school related. So where do I want to be in terms of location? Do I want to be in a big city? Do I want to be in a small town? Some other things like what are the living expenses associated with that area that the school is in, and whether or not you can afford that. If I can't afford it, are there resources there that are able to help me find funding or work or any other source of income? You'll also want to consider environment and culture. So is the school in an area in which you would feel comfortable, that you would feel safe? Are there people there who you would be able to reach out to in case you needed help for anything? Would you be able to find your place and feel like you belong? And lastly, if you're someone with a family, then you'll also have to consider the needs of your family. And that will depend on a number of factors that are very specific to you. All right, and that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. Hopefully this video was helpful, and if you're in the middle of your program search or just starting your program search, hopefully I was able to plant a few little seeds in your mind that might help you along the way. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, and I will see you in my next one.